The look on Marcus Williams' face as he tossed my research papers across his desk would stay with me forever. 5 years of groundbreaking AI work scattered like confetti in his plush corner office, while he sat there sneering at what he couldn't understand. Neuroplasticity in artificial systems? He scoffed, waving one of my papers. This isn't science fiction, Dr. Zhang. This is a business. We need practical solutions, not your theoretical nonsense. I'm Dr. Sarah Zhang, and this is the story of how getting fired became the best thing that ever happened to me, and the worst mistake my boss ever made. But sir, I tried to explain, gathering my papers, the adaptive learning algorithms I've developed could revolutionize how AI systems. Enough. Marcus cut me off. I've tolerated your pet project long enough. The board wants results, not promises. Clear out your desk by end of day. I stood there in his office, surrounded by the glossy magazine covers featuring his face. Marcus Williams, CEO of Nexus Technologies, Silicon Valley's AI visionary. If only they knew he couldn't tell machine learning from a marketing spreadsheet. You're making a mistake, I said quietly. He laughed. The mistake was letting you waste company resources for 5 years. Security will escort you out. As I packed my desk, my colleague Tom Parker hovered nearby. This is insane, Sarah. Your work on neuroplasticity is groundbreaking. It's fine, I said, carefully wrapping my lucky jade pendant, a gift from my grandmother when I started my PhD. Everything's proceeding as planned. Tom's eyes widened. What do you mean? I just smiled and continued packing. What Marcus didn't know, what nobody at Nexus knew, was that for the past 3 years I'd been living a double life. By day I was the quiet researcher in the corner office, always working late, devoted to my theoretical nonsense. But by night I was the founder and CEO of Aurora Intelligence, a startup that had quietly become the most valuable private AI company in the world. It started 3 years ago when I made my breakthrough in adaptive neural networks. I immediately saw its potential and its dangers. I also saw how Marcus and his board would try to weaponize it. So I made a choice. I founded Aurora Intelligence under a pseudonym, funded by private investors who understood the importance of ethical AI development. While I continued my theoretical work at Nexus, Aurora turned my research into revolutionary products. Our AI systems were already being used in medical diagnosis, climate modeling, and education, making the world better, not just making weapons smarter. And tomorrow morning, Aurora was going public with a special announcement. As security walked me to the door, Marcus called out from his office, "Try not to waste your next employer's time with your science fiction dreams." I turned back one last time. "Don't miss tomorrow's board meeting, Mr. Williams. I hear there's going to be an interesting announcement." That evening I sat in my real office, the top floor of Aurora's headquarters, overlooking the San Francisco Bay. My assistant Jenny brought in the latest market reports. "Our stock debuts at opening bell," she said. "Financial Times is already calling it the biggest tech IPO in history." I nodded, watching the sunset reflect off the bay. "And the other matter?" "Completed this afternoon. We now own 51% of Nexus Technologies shares. The board has been notified of the change in ownership. They're meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. I smiled, touching my grandmother's jade pendant. Perfect timing. My phone buzzed, a text from Tom. "Just heard about emergency board meeting tomorrow." "What's going on?" "Watch the financial news at 9 a.m., I replied. I spent that night in my private lab at Aurora, refining the next generation of adaptive AI systems. My real work, the work Marcus had dismissed as fantasy, was already changing the world. Tomorrow it would change my world too. The next morning I dressed carefully in my best suit. Not the shabby ones I'd worn at Nexus, but a tailored Armani that befitted a tech CEO. My driver delivered me to Nexus headquarters just as the morning news shows were starting their business coverage. The security guard who'd escorted me out yesterday did a double take as I walked in with Jenny and our legal team. "Dr. Zhang? You can't." Jenny handed him a document. "Dr. Zhang is the new majority owner of Nexus Technologies. She's expected at the board meeting." I could hear raised voices coming from the boardroom as we approached. Marcus was shouting, "What do you mean, sold? To whom?" I paused outside the door, straightening my jacket. 5 years of playing small, of being underestimated, had led to this moment. I thought of my grandmother's words when she gave me her pendant. Success isn't about being seen. It's about seeing clearly when others are blind. I had seen clearly. Now it was time to be seen. Jenny opened the boardroom door and I walked into chaos. Marcus was red-faced, jabbing his finger at his tablet showing financial headlines. Board members were arguing amongst themselves. And on the massive screen behind them was Aurora Intelligence's stock debut, the biggest IPO in tech history. The room fell silent as I walked in. "Good morning," I said calmly. "I believe we have some business to discuss." Marcus stared at me, then at his tablet, then back at me. "You're Dr. Sarah Zhang," I said, taking my seat at the head of the table. "Founder and CEO of Aurora Intelligence, and as of yesterday majority shareholder of Nexus Technologies." The color drained from his face as the implications sank in. His entire empire, built on stealing others' innovations, now belonged to the researcher he'd just fired. "But your research, it was theoretical, useless." I smiled, reaching for the presentation remote. "Let me show you what my theoretical nonsense can really do." Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about proving just how wrong they were to underestimate you. And I was just getting started. "Let me demonstrate what adaptive neuroplasticity actually means," I said, pulling up Aurora's latest project on the boardroom screen. "This is an AI system that can learn and evolve in real time, adapting to new situations without additional training." The board members leaned forward, their earlier chaos forgotten as they watched the demonstration. Even Marcus, still pale and shaken, couldn't look away. "Last month, this system helped doctors identify a new variant of influenza before it could become an epidemic. Last week, it optimized clean energy distribution across 3 continents. And yesterday," I paused, letting the tension build, "it predicted market movements that made Aurora's IPO the most successful in history." "Impossible," Marcus whispered. "The processing power alone would be beyond anything currently available?" I smiled. "That's where you're wrong. My breakthroughs in neuroplasticity reduced computational requirements by 90%. The same research you called theoretical nonsense yesterday." Jenny distributed folders to each board member. "Inside you'll find documentation of every patent, every innovation, and every product Aurora has developed using Dr. Zhang's technology. You'll also find a detailed analysis of how Nexus has fallen behind in AI development under current leadership." Marcus jumped up. "This is a hostile takeover. I'll fight this in court." "Actually," I held up my jade pendant, "everything's perfectly legal. You see, while I was developing my useless research here at Nexus, I followed every protocol. All my breakthrough work was done independently on my own time using my own resources. Your lawyers can verify that." I turned to address the board directly. "For 5 years I watched Nexus waste its potential chasing quick profits instead of real innovation. That ends today. Aurora will merge with Nexus, combining our technologies to create something revolutionary." One of the board members, Dr. Patricia Chin, spoke up. "Your work on neuroplasticity. The implications for medical AI are staggering." "Exactly," I nodded. "Which is why I've kept it out of the hands of those who would weaponize it. Aurora's ethical AI guidelines are non-negotiable in this merger." The next few hours were a blur of presentations, questions, and discussions. I laid out my vision for the combined companies. Ethical AI development focused on solving real-world problems, not just maximizing shareholder value. Marcus sat silently, watching his empire slip away. When he finally spoke, his voice was hollow. Why stay here for 5 years if you had all this?" "Because I believed Nexus could be more than what you made it," I replied. "I still do." Over the next few months, the merger transformed both companies. Aurora's innovative technology combined with Nexus's established infrastructure created something greater than either company alone. We launched new initiatives in healthcare, education, and environmental protection. The press couldn't get enough of the story. AIs Hidden Genius. How Sarah Zhang built a tech empire in secret, read one headline. The researcher who bought her boss's company declared another. But the real work was just beginning. One morning I found Marcus waiting in my office, his former office. "I've been reviewing your original research," he said, holding up a worn copy of my papers. "I didn't understand it before. I do now. And I was wrong." The word seemed to pain him. Your vision for AI. It's not just theoretical. It's revolutionary. I studied him for a moment. Would you like to see what we're working on now? In my private lab, I showed him Project Oracle, an AI system that could predict and help prevent natural disasters. Marcus watched in silence as the system analyzed weather patterns, geological data, and human activity to identify potential crisis points. This could save thousands of lives, he said quietly. That's the point. AI should serve humanity, not just corporate interests. After that day, something changed. Marcus asked to join one of our research teams, not as a leader but as a learner. His business experience, combined with a newfound appreciation for real innovation, proved valuable. 6 months after the merger, we faced our first major test. A competing tech giant announced they had replicated our adaptive AI technology and planned to sell it to military contractors. I called an emergency board meeting. They reverse-engineered our public systems, Jenny reported. But they don't have the ethical constraints we built into the core architecture. Which is exactly why I developed these safeguards, I said, pulling up our response plan. Our AI systems have built-in protective protocols that prevent misuse. Any attempt to weaponize them triggers an automatic shutdown. Marcus, now head of our ethics committee, spoke up. We'll take a short-term stock hit if we refuse military contracts. Some things are more important than stock prices, I replied, touching my grandmother's jade pendant. We stood our ground. When our competitors' military AI systems failed spectacularly during testing, our ethical approach was vindicated. Our stock soared as more companies adopted our guidelines for responsible AI development. 1 year after my dramatic boardroom entrance, I stood on stage at the World Technology Forum, presenting our latest breakthrough, an AI system that could help reverse climate change. In the audience, I spotted Marcus sitting next to Tom. Both now led research teams at the merged company focused on ethical AI applications. Tom had been right all along about my work being groundbreaking, he just hadn't known how right. After my speech, a young researcher approached me. Dr. Zhang, how did you know your theories would work when everyone doubted you? I thought about those 5 years of playing small, of working late nights in my hidden lab while being dismissed at my day job. I didn't just know they would work, I told her. I proved it first, then showed the world. Sometimes the best way to change things is to build something so undeniable that even your doubters become believers. Today, the merged Aurora Nexus leads the world in ethical AI development. Our systems help doctors save lives, help scientists solve problems, and help humanity face its greatest challenges. Marcus still apologizes occasionally for firing me. I always tell him the same thing, best mistake you ever made. Last week, I found my old security badge from Nexus. Looking at that photo of my younger self, wearing shabby suits and playing small, I remembered my grandmother's words about seeing clearly when others are blind. I saw clearly enough to build something revolutionary. Clearly enough to protect it from those who would misuse it. And clearly enough to know that true success isn't about revenge. It's about transformation. In my office now, next to my grandmother's jade pendant, I keep the research papers Marcus threw across his desk that day. They remind me that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from the ideas others dismiss as impossible. The young researcher who doubted herself? She's now leading our newest project, developing AI systems that can help restore damaged ecosystems. I recognized in her what Marcus failed to see in me, the quiet brilliance that could change the world. Yesterday, during a board meeting, Marcus asked me why I didn't just start Aurora without spending 5 years at Nexus. Because I needed to understand how power works, I told him. How it can corrupt innovation and how it can serve it. I needed to learn what not to do before I could build something better. He nodded, finally understanding. Sometimes the longest path is the right one. Sometimes you have to let them underestimate you before you can show them how wrong they were. And sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting it right. As I write this from my office overlooking the bay, I can see the lights of our research labs where hundreds of brilliant minds work on the next breakthrough. Each of them knows our core principle. Innovation without ethics is just another form of destruction. The jade pendant catches the evening light, reminding me of how far I've come from that quiet researcher in the corner office. But more importantly, it reminds me of how far we still have to go. Because in the end, it was never about proving Marcus wrong. It was about proving that technology can serve humanity's highest potential, not its lowest impulses. That success isn't measured in stock prices or magazine covers, but in lives improved and problems solved. And that sometimes, the person they dismissed today will be the one leading them tomorrow.